So welcome to the Kanban Coaching Exchange. So lovely to see you this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's great to see so many regular faces as always, and obviously to welcome new people to our group as well. So our speaker tonight is a fabulous guy called Dimitar, and I know Dimitar from the Kanban world. We don't know each other in great detail or that personally, but I've always admired Dimitar from afar as the CEO of Kanbanize, and also his contribution to the Kanban world, helping to evolve the method. But also, you know, I looked to him as well. He did a lot of great work around statistics. And when I was learning this stuff as an up and coming Kanban trainer, you know, he put a lot of stuff out there to really support me in my journey. And so it was a bit of a no-brainer, really, when I was thinking about who can I invite along to kind of share their Kanban love and their experiences. I thought, let's get Dimitar along. And also his talk sounds really quite interesting. And he refused to tell me anything about it. So this is the first time I'm hearing it tonight as well. So I'd like to hand over to our speaker. Welcome, Dimitar. Over to you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Vlad, also for the invite. I'm really delighted to be here. It's a real pleasure. I didn't tell you about the talk because it's the first time I'm actually delivering it tonight. And on Monday, it's going to be a keynote at the Kanban Community Days, Germany, and actually the DACH region. So it's a brand new thing. I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. So let me share my screen and actually get started. Do you see the presentation?
Yep, all good.
All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. As you already know, my name is Dimitar. I'm from Kanbanize. I'm one of the founding members of the company and also the CEO. The title says that I've been a farmer for a while, and it's actually because I participated in a TV reality show, a lot like Survivor, if you've seen it, and it's called The Farm. It's because it takes place in a farm. But I will talk about that in just a minute. Before that, I want to tell you what you can expect to get out of this talk. And it's the yin and yang, where Kanban is the white and something else is the black. I've always thought, and I've always believed that Kanban is the best management method that we know today. But I've also always sensed that it's not the complete truth. It's not false, it's true, but there's something more to it. And I've always known that. I've always known there's something more we should add to it in order to make it complete and make it whole. But it took me like 10 years of Kanbanizing and a TV reality show just to get to verbalize this thing. And that's why I think it's worth having this talk. It's worth because you may have thought about these things in the past. I'm sure you have, but unless you hear it from somebody else, unless you get validated from somebody else, you might just let it go. I mean, you might let the thoughts go away, and I think they are important. So what is it that truly complements Kanban? Let's find out together. This photo that you're seeing is where the reality show took place. It's an old Bulgarian farm, maybe 100 years old, I don't know. And it looks habitable, but it's actually in pretty bad shape. So 20-something people, like 24 people are gathered together in this farm with the task to rebuild almost everything with their bare hands. They have a lot of work every week. Every week there's a farmer who's like the boss of the farm. The farmer gets a lot of work assigned. Then that person has to work with everybody else, assigning tasks and work to everybody else in order to get the job done. And if everybody gets the job done, we get food. Otherwise, we get scarce supplies of food. So we were very motivated to work on the farm. Otherwise, we were just going to get hungry. There's one more thing you should know about the show. It is that every week there are two people chosen by the farmer who are like lower grade workers, and they take care of the animals. We also had animals on the farm, like goats, sheep, cows, rabbits, chicken, everything. And we had to feed them, do all the things that animals require. And at the end of the week, one of these two people was selected to be a duelist because there's a fight at the end of the week. And whoever loses the fight leaves the show. The last person standing is the winner and gets a big monetary prize. I wanted to tell you about the show just so you know in what context Kanban was applied. But before I actually show you how we did it, I want to play you a very short video, like 3 minutes, to get you the feeling about this reality. Because when I just talk about it, I don't think you can get the true idea. So let me play it to you. You won't understand a word, but I tried to put some subtitles below just so you get a little bit of feeling what it was about. So I'm playing a 3-minute video now.
Безстрашният човек няма какво да губи.
Всичко или нищо! 3, 2, 1, старт!
Давай, старт! Давай!
Давай, Мите! Браво, машино! Давай! Убивай това дърво, машино!
Давай!
Пирон за пирон!
Ако мозъкът го иска силно, тялото може да продължава дълго време.
Ето това се казва борба! Всичко или нищо!
Непобедимостта е в защитата, а победата в атаката.
Ох, леле! Браво!
Победи себе си и ще спечелиш хиляди битки.
Дай, Мите! Давай още!
Ай! Абсолютно разлика! Тише! По-трудно, отколкото аз очаквах.
Искам да ви кажа, че това е извън всякакви мои възможности.
Ако понякога не се проваляш, значи не правиш нищо различно.
Можеш, Александре, можеш!
Човек трябва да може да губи в този живот.
Ще да победа.
Смелостта не е отсъствие на страх, а победа над него.
Няма бедни и богати.
Дуелът. Пътят към новия свят.
Няма бедни и богати. Важното човек да е човек.
All right. So this isn't exactly what you envision when somebody tells you they worked on a farm for 3 months. But in reality, this show was brutal. I mean, I got in 112, I think, kilograms. and I got out 92, which was good for me. I'm not complaining, but it wasn't because I was fed very well. It wasn't because I didn't have something to do. But at least I got to experiment with Kanban, as I told you. And this is what I want to talk about right now. So how did we experiment with Kanban at the farm? Well, I told you that there was a farmer, and this farmer had to manage the work across the whole farm for 20 plus people. In the second week of the show, I became the farmer, and I was thinking, hey, I have so much stuff to do with that team of people I don't know. Let me experiment with Kanban. And this is what I did. So if you could recognize what this is on the image, it's a pile of hay. I think that's what it's called, hay. It's just like grass, food for the animals, but it has 3 ropes, 3 blue ropes. And I thought, if I just tuck some notes under the ropes, I could use this as a Kanban board. So I have to do, doing, and done. These would be the tasks that people are assigned. Everybody will know what they have to do, and I will know what they have done. I will know what they have started doing but not finished yet. So it took me 5 minutes to take this pile of hay from the barn, put it in a central place where everybody was seeing it, write some notes with the tasks people had to do, and it just worked. I was very surprised. And I was mostly surprised by the fact that I was explaining a basic Kanban board to people of all sorts of backgrounds. There were people from the city, there were people from the village, there were people with higher education, people with lower education, all sorts of people. If you've seen any of those realities, they gather people of as different backgrounds as possible, because that's how the show becomes better. And yet we were much more productive in the second week of the show compared to the first one. And I attribute some of the success to the pile of hay with notes on it. But we didn't stop here. After we did this, I stopped being a farmer after the second week, right? So there were new farmers. I stopped pushing the Kanban idea onto anybody. I just said to myself, okay, I showed them something. Let me now pull back and just observe. Is anybody going to be interested in what I just showed them? Is anybody going to pick it up? In the 4th week, the farmer comes to me and says, hey, Dimitar, I want you to build a better board than this pile, because the pile is not that convenient and it's quite messy. So let us do something professional. And I created this board, which is now a real board made out of paneling. It has screws on it where you can attach the notes. It's just much more professional. It's in my basement right now. It took me 25 minutes to build it. We didn't have to explain anything to the people, and it worked as good as any Kanban board. But what was more inspiring for me is that the person that I talked about, he was actually proactively coming to me and asking me to do this. I didn't offer that on purpose because I wanted to see how sticky Kanban was. And after that, after this 4th week, there were like 8 or 9 weeks more. At least half of the farmers were using this same Kanban board with notes on it to manage the work in the farm. And that was truly inspiring for me. I was thinking, hey, 10 years of Kanbanizing the world, people love that stuff. It's not in vain, right? But it's not all. I even got invited in a morning talk show to talk about Kanban. So this is Kanban on national television. I'm drawing some stuff, like some schemes, talking about Kanban. Of course, I couldn't coach Kanban on national television, but I'm sure that per capita, Bulgaria is the country with highest percentage of people who have heard about Kanban because it was on national television. I think that at least 30% of the population has heard about what we do, guys. So it was quite fun. It was quite fun. With all that said, I concluded that Kanban is simply a humane method, and it sticks to people naturally. People stick to it. And this is something we all know from our experience, but now we have it on television. It's documented with people of all sorts of backgrounds, and nobody can argue against that. So I think it was a good social experiment, and it really was valuable to me personally. But there's always a but, right? If there was no but, my presentation would have stopped here, but there was a but. I started realizing something while doing this Kanban thing at the farm with the guys that I didn't know. I mean, the participants, the rest of the participants. And as I started, and as I said in the beginning, I've always known there's something more to Kanban. I just couldn't identify it. And I think it's exactly then when I started to realize it and to extract it from my subconscious level and make it a little bit more conscious. What I didn't mention about the farm is that when you get in there, you have no connection to the outside world. You're completely isolated. There are 2 meters or 3 meters tall of fences because they protect you from the outside world. You have no phone, no internet, no nothing. Actually, you live as people lived 50 or 100 years ago. You don't even have bathroom or toilet, or actually you have a toilet, but the toilet is a hole in the ground with some planks around it. It's just super basic stuff. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, I'm not sure. And being away for so long from the civilization you're used to so much really sharpens your senses. And that's how I was able to extract this thing from my subconscious level. At least that's how I explain it to myself. But before I tell you what it was, I need to get you a little bit back in time, just so you know what Dimitar was prior to entering the show. So we started Kanbanize in 2009 with the first prototype, in 2010 formally. And until 2019, when the show took place, it's been like 10 years of 70+ hour work weeks with no vacation, like no vacation at all for the first 2 to 3 years. And after that, no vacation where I could disconnect my phone and email. I've always been on call. I've always been on email, always reachable. And I'm not complaining. I'm just giving you facts, right? I've always pushed super hard to perform at the top of my abilities, and I identified with my work. I loved so much, and I still do what I do, that I simply identified with my work. And then I get into this show. And somewhere around the end of the first month, I started realizing that I hadn't thought about my work at all. And that hit me super hard. Dimitar, the CEO of Kanbanize, the workaholic, the person who gives 70+ work hour weeks, in a month hasn't talked about his work. I couldn't believe it at first. I think I thought there's something in the food that keeps me delusional all the time or something like this, but it was really a bad surprise for me. Actually, I went into the show because I wanted to spend some time outside the office thinking about the strategy of the company, how we could better compete in the world markets. And apparently a month had passed and I haven't thought about work at all. And yeah, that wasn't a nice surprise. I was questioning myself, and I was questioning whether the things I've been doing for 10 years were actually useful. But what I wasn't questioning was that I missed the people I worked with. I missed the people I loved. I missed my family. I missed my dogs. I missed every living creature on earth. And it's when you're in this farm, it's like you're dead because you cannot talk to your close relatives and close friends. You know they exist, you know they're out there, but you cannot communicate with them. It's almost like you're dead. But the good thing is that you know this is going to end, you're going to get out, and you can fix all the mistakes you've done. So it's like a redemption in some sort. But I won't go so much into the personal side of things because it's still a professional event. So I'm going to go back to the Kanban stuff we talked about. And in light of missing the people so much, I started realizing that the mechanics of Kanban, like the principles, the practices, and all that stuff, is great, but they simply cannot substitute the relationships you have with your teams. And I could compare how we did Kanban with a group of strangers in the farm and how we did Kanban in my company, where we've been doing it for 10 plus years, and where the average employment age is above 5 years, I think, which means that people stay with us for a long, long time. And at that time, I knew that as much as I was thinking my team was priceless, I realized I'm in debt to them. And it's because I hadn't invested enough in building enough relationships with them, stronger relationships with them. I was a little bit on the surface, like, yeah, let's do this practice. Let's do this principle. Let's not talk a lot about personal stuff. And why not? I still don't get it. Why some people don't want to talk about their personal life at work, assuming that everything is okay, right? If you have some personal issues, of course, you have your privacy and the right to privacy. But if everything is okay, why put this barrier? Why not feel people and other people like closer, having stronger relationships? It hit me that in Kanban, we talk about caring about people a lot, which is true and which is great, but we always do it through something. We care about people through the implementation of the right system. We care about people through the implementation of the right process. Or we care about people through limiting work in progress so they're not stressed. And these are all great things. But can't we just care about people like peer-to-peer without having to go through something? I think this is what we miss in the Kanban community and in the Kanban space. Like, how do we truly establish more and higher quality relationships between each other? So after 82 days of full isolation from the outside world, I came to realize that who you do things with is extremely important. And if you asked me 2 years ago, I would tell you that the why and the what is undoubtedly the most important thing in life, at least in business life. And what I'm saying now would have sounded as heresy, but back then I hadn't spent 3 months in isolation. And you might be thinking I'm exaggerating. You might be thinking I'm some sort of a sissy that cannot be separated for 3 months from his family. But it's not that I cannot endure this thing. It's just I realized how important everybody in my life was, including the people I work with, including the people who are our clients, including the people we partner with, including our vendors and everybody else. So who, to me, became the number one thing. And I'm not saying who in the sense of tribal responses to other groups, which we know about in the Kanban space, but simply who is by my side. I think this is the most important thing right now. And I had to prioritize it because, as I said, I felt I'm in debt to my team because I hadn't prioritize that. And I did prioritize it. I will allow myself a short personal detour just to tell you something. Prioritizing who in my personal life means a lot of things, but one thing that I really changed is that I never hang up the phone on my family anymore. Before going to the farm, my mother would call me and I will be in just a regular meeting and I would hang up on her and I will play busy. Like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't talk to you right now. And then I heard something like, busy is the new stupid, which I completely support. But going out of the farm and being dead for 3 months, I just don't hang up the phone on my family anymore. And I urge you to think about this. Are you really that busy that you cannot take this phone call? Just think about it. Going back to the professional aspect, who comes down to what? Building relationships. I think this has to be the goal for every business owner, for every leader, for every person, every CEO, regardless of your position. I think this is what complements Kanban, meaningful relationships. And I will try to prove it to you, but let me first tell you what I think we have to do in order to start creating these meaningful relationships. All right, how do we build relationships? We give and we get. You cannot have these kind of relationships with everyone, right? In order to build a relationship with a person, you need to be aligned, at least in some areas. So I spend a little bit of time analyzing myself and what I can give and what I value in the teams I work with. And I came to this, which is strictly personal, by the way. And I'm just going to read it. To me, putting people in the center of the universe means helping them become the best version of themselves they could ever be. And I have started this to me because it's very important what it means to you. If you want to go out and build meaningful relationships with the people you work with, you need to analyze yourself and find what you truly value and what people truly value in yourself. This is what I think is true for myself. And it's the way you somehow segment the people in your organization, because you cannot have a meaningful relationship with everyone. I just know that I cannot have a meaningful relationship with a person who doesn't want to become the best version of themselves. I just can't. But if I know they do, I will cross the hell for them and I will help them be the best person they can ever be. And as a result, we will have a meaningful relationship, which again, I think is the most important thing besides the mechanical stuff. So how do we get there? I think it's a two-way street. On one end, there has to be leadership. And this is not just hierarchical leadership. It could be any type of leadership. It could be bottom up, left to right to left, it doesn't matter. There has to be leadership on one end, there has to be motivation on the other. And because I'm thinking as a CEO, I'm thinking if I experience the right type of leadership, and if the people I work with have the right type of motivation, then we will undoubtedly create these relationships which keep the company stronger and propel it to new heights. And then I started looking for the best leadership style. And that was quite a journey. And as a CEO, I was thinking, hey, leadership, this must be a piece of cake. I know a lot about leadership. And I sat down and I gave myself the task to write up what leadership means to me. And I couldn't write more than 2 sentences. I just realized I know nothing about leadership. I think I had just a stroke of luck being born a somewhat natural leader and not having to learn how to do these kind of things. It just came naturally. But I decided it's not okay for a CEO not to know anything about leadership, so I have to go read about leadership. And I started reading about leadership, and that's what I got to. So these are all different types or styles or whatever you want to call it, leaderships. And these are not even all of them, but I didn't want to remove the logo to put even more. The logo is important. And I was like, do you mean to tell me that I need to read about all these types of leaderships and then define or decide which the best one was? Okay, let me do that. And that's how I lost a month of my life, reading about the best leadership style, until I realized that this slide is a lot about this slide, about the best agile thing. And my question to you guys is, which is the best agile thing? You can leave your answer in the chat window. And these are not even all, but again, I didn't want to remove the logo. I realized that there's no one best leadership style, just as there's no one best agile framework or whatever you want to call it. Because if you want to truly be agile, you have to take some ideas from this, some ideas from that. In my opinion, apply Kanban's principles and practices and just evolve your organization however it makes sense. And I was wondering, hey, is there no such thing like Kanban in the leadership domain? And luckily for me, I discovered what is called authentic leadership. It's a rather new concept. Maybe you guys have heard about it. Maybe you haven't. I hadn't heard about it before I really started deliberately reading about authentic leadership. And it could be just my ignorance, but I don't think it's that mainstream yet. So I thought it's worth sharing it with you. I think authentic leadership is somewhat the equivalent of Kanban because it says, start with what you do now and just be better, right? And this is what authentic leadership is all about. It has 4 components. The first one is self-awareness. If you want to truly be an authentic leader, you need to know what you're good at and what you're bad at. You have to be aware of yourself. And for example, I myself, I'm terrible at execution. I am rather good on conceptualizing ideas, seeing the whole, making the pieces fit. But when it comes to execution, I always delegate to other people just because I know I suck. And if I played the ego game that I'm always better than anybody else in the company, I wouldn't be a good fit for an authentic leader. Relational transparency refers to showing your true self to others. And that's why it's called authentic leadership. And I think it's a game changer. Because I've been taught my entire life before creating my own company that in order to be a leader, you have to always somehow skew the reality for the people that report into you. Be that to save them from bad influences, be that to manipulate them into believing something, whatever. And I never liked that. And when I heard about this, I said, wow, finally, somebody has gotten it that we have to be true to ourselves. But anyway, I'm a little bit slow, so I need to speed up. Balanced processing means that you have to consider the opinions of others. It doesn't mean you have to accept the opinions of others, but it means you're genuinely curious what others have to say, and you truly consider what they have to say. It's not just asking out of politeness, but really working as a team. And the last component to an authentic leader is that they are expected to have an internalized moral perspective, which is based on how am I changing the world for the better? How am I making a difference? So if you are to be an authentic leader, there has to be something higher above the money and the success. There has to be something. And people say that there doesn't need to be something above the money. This is what I say, because I think money is just a bad motivator. But technically speaking, even money can be something that authentic leaders strive to. So if you have these 4 characteristics, you are deemed to be an authentic leader. And if you're wondering how authentic leaders compare to 2 of the most famous leadership styles out there, at least in my opinion, it's like this. So the authentic, transformational, and servant leadership are compared right here for 4 different characteristics. Well, authenticity, neither nor transformational nor servant leadership talk about authenticity. They tell you you can be a great transformational leader, you can be a great servant leader, even if you're not authentic. I myself don't like that. Authentic leaders doesn't need to be charismatic. And if you are to be a transformational leader like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, you just have to be charismatic. But if we had to rely on charismatic leaders only, well, the world is in short supply of them. So I prefer authentic leaders. There's no holy truth, which is something I myself dislike in servant leadership, because it says your purpose on earth is to serve your followers. And I think whoever and whatever claims that there is one single source of truth and one truth only is suspicious. I don't think there's one holy truth in anything. So I prefer authentic leadership because it says, hey, there's no one thing you must be doing, like serving others. You do whatever you think is right, as long as you keep these 4 dimensions, these 4 characteristics that we talked about, and as long as things are getting better, that's perfect. And the last thing is that followers are not required to be leaders themselves, which is expected in transformational leadership. So transformational leaders, they lead with the goal to create the next generation of leaders. And that's not the case in authentic leadership. You could create new leaders, you could not create new leaders. It's entirely up to the context, the company, and everything else. So I have found my best leadership style, and it's authentic. Now I had to go find the motivation, right? That it was leadership and motivation equals meaningful relationships. So what about motivation? Above all, I really liked a definition about motivation, which I read recently. It was the energy for action. I never had read that before, energy for action. I really like it. And when we talk about motivation and energy for action, I always refer to Daniel Pink's Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose. Again, throughout my entire entrepreneurial life, like 10 years, 11 years now, this has been my go-to resource for motivation. But at some point in time, it started really bugging me because of the purpose thing. I realized through my work with many people, I realized that not everybody has this great purpose in life. And I used to ridicule these people who would go back home, switch on the TV, eat some popcorn and watch the Netflix series. I would be thinking, hey, these guys, they're wasting their time. How could they do this? And then I got a little bit wiser, and I realized that the world is colorful. It's not just black and white, right? And it's totally fine to go back lie on the sofa, eat popcorn, and watch Netflix. It's totally fine. And these people are actually doing a great job. Many cases, in many cases, and I know a lot of these people. And I was thinking, okay, but if they have no such higher purpose in life, how could they be motivated? And I know a lot of these people. They're really motivated at work. Then they go at home and watch Netflix. How could this be? How could they not want to change the world? Well, apparently there is a better explanation, and it was discovered by the self-determination theory, SDT. Please don't confuse it with STD. It's SDT. So these guys, they talk about three basic psychological needs, just like Daniel Pink. They talk about autonomy as well. They talk about competency, which is something like the mastery, I think. But instead of purpose, they talk about relatedness. And this really pointed my attention to this SDT theory because it resonated with my goal to create more meaningful relationships. I was thinking, hey, if people feel more related to one another, the chances of having this type of relationship is higher, right? So I started reading a lot about it. And this relatedness thing is the key. When people feel related to one another, we satisfy their psychological need of belonging. People, we just want to belong to something, to someone, to whatever, some cause, some company, some family. It's our psychological need. And that explained why some people could be very devoted to their work and then go back home and eat popcorn. It's because they felt related to their company, to their bosses, to their peers, their subordinates. It doesn't matter. So this relatedness feeling is a feeling that you matter and people matter to you. And the question was, how do we cause relatedness? How do I make people to feel related? And it's a stupid question because you can't make anyone feel related, but you can create an environment. I'm sorry. You can create an environment that helps them feel related. And this has to do a lot of with autonomous motivation. Autonomous motivation is when people do things out of choice and not out of obligation. So in my head, as a leader in Kanban, I started really focusing on how do I help people act out of choice so that they feel more related to us as a company and to me as a leader, so that we establish this relationship that I think is so important. And I knew that if they are more motivated, they'll be better, faster, happier, they'll feel better, and everybody would be happier. So I started for myself investing a lot in free choice. And I have to admit, it's a bit counterintuitive to me as a leader. I'm more on the autocratic scale of leaders, or at least I used to be. I'm learning now. I'm doing my best. But I realized that the more I leave choice for people, the more related they become. And when I see it working, I just keep doing it. So this is my secret recipe for relatedness. Just let people choose what they want to do. And going almost to the end of my presentation, I need to prove you that all of these things work. Otherwise, it would have been just a lot of nice words from a guy who attended a TV show. I think it worked, and I will try to convince you with one email I got from a partner that says the following. Hi, Dimitar, I have to prepare a presentation to a committee who are reviewing a selection of 4, which is 4 tools, all the regular, Jira Data Center, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, and Kanban. And I'm reading this email, and I'm not thinking how we will beat those guys, because it has happened. We have won tenders against all of these. But I'm thinking, how is it possible that a small company in Bulgaria, Eastern Europe, everybody knows Eastern Europe, it's not the richest region in the world. A company that was started with the money you would spend on a car, with an ecosystem that had zero history in venture capital and startups and all that. How could we on earth, how on earth could we compete with companies, 2 of which have revenues more than the GDP of my country? ServiceNow and Microsoft, they have revenues like 4 or 10 times the GDP of Bulgaria. And yet, here we are, a small company competing with these enormous companies. And to me, the answer is very simple. It's Kanban and the meaningful relationships we have with the people we work with. I've always been extremely proud of the team at Kanban because of these kind of things. But it's not just hard work. There's a lot of hard work. That's true, but it's not just that. It's like the sense of being part of something bigger, the sense of helping each other all the time, the sense of being part of something that truly makes a difference in the world. And but it hasn't always been like that. For the first part of our life as a company, we were always pushing on efficiency, productivity, cycle times, throughputs. We don't care what you feel. We don't care what you think. We want results. And I realized that we have achieved this success with one hand tied behind our back. But now, when this is all clear and all true, thanks to a reality show that I've been in, I think the future looks much brighter. And I want to close the presentation with a slide back to the farm, which shows my engagement. When I went into the show, I had a relationship with my then girlfriend for 6 years. And I had no intention of proposing to her because I was happy. We were loving each other. I just didn't feel it was necessary. But when I was in the farm, so far away from everybody I loved, I just felt the need to call her. Ask the production to call her to get her into the farm where I can propose to her on national television. It's super cheesy. I've never, ever liked these kind of things, like proposing to someone at a baseball game. This is super cheesy, but I didn't care back then. I just didn't care. And you see a bunch of people dancing a national dance called Horo, dressed in national costumes, having the best day of their lives. And I wanna close with this photo because I had never been happier in my life. And it wasn't money, it wasn't success, it wasn't anything. It was just one true, meaningful relationship with my wife. And that's why I called my presentation From a CEO to a Farmer, because I think we all have to be farmers, but we have to grow not crops, but relationships. We have to plant the seeds, water the seeds, take care of them, fertilize them, and then one day the fruit will be there. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. It was a real pleasure to deliver it for the first time to you guys. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Let's give Dimitar a round of applause. Brilliant. I love that. Okay. Who's got some questions for Dimitar? Actually, I want to know if he did win, but but we'll let some other questions go first.
Actually, I got out one day before the final, so I almost won, but no, I wasn't the winner.
Damn it.
Yeah, Helen, I told you that I will be surprised if there are questions after this presentation, because it just doesn't lend itself too much for questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Sorry, it's not a question, but just a point of feedback. I've had a quick look at Kanban and love how the workflows and the pull down from the different workflows work. It's a brilliant tool. It looks like a brilliant tool. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Does Jay work in your company? Was that a product placement?
No.
Not at all. No, I've not even properly tried it yet.
I'm only joking, Jay.
But
I'm
I'd
only
like
joking. I mean, it seems like though, Dimitar, you went on a massive kind of like personal journey from where you were, from the point that you kind of started to where you ended up, so much so, that you kind of really cherished and valued your partner, and you wanted to show that to her. If we ask kind of like some of your employees at Kanban, what change did you see in Dimitar after he came back? What would they say?
I don't want to put Carolina on the spot here, but we have one of them. So if she wants to chime in, I'm happy to hear what she has to say. But my answer would be that they wouldn't even notice any significant change, because I didn't necessarily express these feelings and these things the way I did today. But I'm sure if they hear this talk, they will be connecting a lot of dots about the things I've done or not done in the past. But if Carolina wants to join, I'm happy to hear what she has to say. If we didn't lose her at some point in time.
No, I'm here. Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. My camera.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I barely knew you actually before the show, and I could tell there is a huge difference. Maybe it's because I started in the company just around the time that you joined this TV show. But yeah, I could, as you mentioned, connect a lot of the dots and see a lot of the things that you're talking about in this presentation. You're actually doing them. So yeah, I can testify to that.
Thank you.
I think we should send this video around to your company after we've cut it. And I think everybody should go and phone their mums after this. For those that's still fortunate enough to have them in the world, go and phone your mums. A question from John in the audience. Would you say that authentic leadership can hold its own in a hostile, anti-change, anti-agile organizational transformation and environment? Whew, that was a tough question to get my tongue around. What do you think, Dimitar?
I absolutely think so. And it's my response comes from the firm belief that you cannot argue with the truth. The truth is just the truth. It's the facts. And if you feel a certain way, and this has been accompanying for my entire life, just tell everybody how you exactly feel, how things are. And if they don't like you for that, probably they don't deserve you. And I mean, we don't have to be disrespectful in this environment, like anti-agile, anti-change. But if you're like a mirror, I like this metaphor that Kanban is like a mirror. You put the mirror and it shows you all the issues that you have in the organization. I think authentic leadership is like a mirror. You just put the mirror, no emotions, no hard feelings. You just state the things as they are. And with time, I believe people will start listening. So I would say yes, but I mean, no disrespect should be in there, because some people might be very authentic in a way that hurts others. I'm not advocating for that, right?
Hopefully that's answered your question, John.
Yeah, if it doesn't, please let me know.
Is there anything else from the room at all?
Well, talk or type? What do you prefer, Helen?
Talk, Rob. We want to hear from other people.
Ah, all right then. Well, it's not a question, just some feedback. I loved your talk, Dimitar, and just want to say, you know, the way you think about leadership and connections, for me, it shines through in the way you as a company do your stuff, right? So I always like talking to Carolina and yourself. I think it also shines through in the software for some reason. I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, just wanted to mention that. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Rob. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, if there's no other questions, I just want to say thank you ever so much again, Dimitar, for giving up your time and being raw and open about, you know, you going on the game show and what you've learned on that, and relating it back to your organization. It's yeah, I think this is one of my favorite ones that we've had this year, if I'm completely honest. So, you know, thank you very much for coming along and sharing it.
Thank you very much.